Hey guys, my name is Kerr and I'm a mixed media artist. Today I'm doing a little tutorial on making these sweet little Coquille shell treasures. I recently took a little vacation. I spent a couple of days on the beach, and so I've had water, shells, ocean, sand on my mind. And so I really love the little Relics and Artifact shells. I just wanted to figure out a way to add texture to the shells, and using stamps was a great way to do that. So sit back, relax, and I hope that you enjoy the tutorial. Okay, so before we get started, I just want to go over the materials that I'm going to be using today in order to make these sweet little shells. I'm going to be using the Relics and Artifacts Coquille set. There's about 5 or 6 different shells in the set, and this technique definitely works with all of them. Today I just decided to go ahead and demo on the small one. I have a thing because it's so tiny and delicate, I like that it's small, so I kind of go for the smaller ones first. But again, you can use the same technique on any of the other shells. This was one of the larger shells, and it works just fine. The technique works just fine with that. You're also going to use some Alumilite metallic gold powder. This company has about 6 or 7 different gold finish powders, and they all work really nicely. Today I just decided to go with the gold. I'm also using metallic luster. The color is White Frost. I'm also using some oven-baked clay. This just happens to be the one that I had on hand. It's like a Caucasian color, but any light-colored clay will work fine. You're also going to need a dedicated toaster oven. You don't want to be baking the clay in an oven that you use for your food, okay? I'm also going to be needing some stamps. And so today I'm using 2 from my collection, the Perseverance stamp, and Brave, which is part of another stamp, but I just cut it out and I'm just using the Brave part. And I'm also using this silicone sheet that I found in the baking department at Michael's. I really like this. This is just a very thin little sheet. It's actually made for cake decorating and for making designs with sugar. And there were about 5 or 6 different designs in the store, but I really like the little patterns, and so I'm going to be using that today. And I'm also going to be using some tacky glue as well as some Tombow glue, just because it has a fine applicator tip. I'm going to be using a little pearl to put in the center of my shell. And I'm also going to be using just some silver glitter, but you can use any color that you like. And that's pretty much it. So I do have some brushes that I'm going to be using, and I think that's it, so let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so the first thing I did was just take a little piece of clay. It doesn't have to be conditioned or anything, just soft enough for you to kind of roll into a ball. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and push it into the shell. And I'm going to press it outwards, because I do want to cover the whole thing. If it's not enough clay, then you can just go ahead and add some more. And again, I just want to get to all of the edges. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to peel that out, and I'm left with the design, the shape of the shell. And this is actually going to be the top part of the shell. Okay. And so what I want to do is I want to first stamp something on there. I'm going to put the word Brave on there. And I'm also, at the same time, instead of having just a flat surface, I want to have some texture on the inside of the shell. And that's where this blue mat comes in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and and place my little clay shell on top of one of the designs, and I'm going to take my rubber stamp and I'm going to go ahead and press the word down on it. And as I press it, it's also going to give some of the design to the inside of that shell. See, there it goes. And then I'll just move that out of the way. And I want to make sure that my word is, it's going to be upright. So I'm just kind of placing it onto the base of this shell to see what it looks like, if I'm happy with it, if I'm okay with the way that it's, you know, the way that it's sitting on the shell. And if I like it, then I'll just go ahead and remove that. Make sure that that can stand on its own, because we're going to be baking them in the oven, but we're going to be baking this piece separate from this piece, okay? So you just want to make sure that it's going to fit nicely on your shell. Okay, so I'm going to put that aside, and then I'm going to take another piece of clay. Again, I'm just kind of rolling it into a ball, and then I'm going to press it into the shell. That one's a little bit too much. And then I'm going to spread it out. Now this one is going to stay inside the shell. I'm not going to be removing it. I just want to get it to the edges. And then I'm going to use that other stamp, and I'm going to just make an impression on there. And I'm just going to press it into the clay. And I'm using quite a bit of force. I want to make sure that it makes a good imprint. One of the reasons why I really love using foam stamps and not wood ones is because it really gives you that flexibility. That looks great. And again, I'm just kind of testing that other top of the shell, making sure that I'm okay with how that looks. And I like it. I think that looks pretty good. Now I'm just going to flip that over a little bit and just press it down a little bit, just so I can flatten out these edges a little bit. Good. I'm also going to go ahead and take my little pearl and put it in the position that I want it in. And then I'll take some of that Alumilite gold metallic powder. And I'm going to go ahead and add that to both of my pieces. This really just makes it go, wow. I love this powder. I love all the colors, actually. They're all really nice, and I use them quite a bit. Now, I'm doing this before I bake it. I'm doing this step. I'm adding the metallic powder before I bake it, just because if I just leave it on there, it can actually just wipe away. And so if I bake it, then it'll adhere to the clay, and it'll bake onto the clay, and it won't come off. Okay, so now these two pieces are ready for me to put into the oven. Make sure that you're following the directions of your clay. They're all different. Normally it's about at 250 degrees for about 15 minutes, but just make sure that you are again using a designated toaster oven, and don't overheat. Don't leave them in there too long because you can actually crack your relic. So make sure that you put a timer on, put them in the oven for about in the toaster oven for about 15 minutes at whatever temperature your clay says to, and then we'll be back to do the next step. Okay, now these are they're already baked and they're hard. So we're going to go ahead and do the next step. I'm going to go ahead and add some of that metallic powder to the sides, but I'm going to do it a little bit differently. Before, the metallic powder actually kind of stuck to the clay, but if I just put it onto the sides, it's not really going to stick. And so I'm just going to take a little bit of water. I'm just going to spray some on my, I have some wax paper on my table here. And then I'm going to take some of that metallic powder again. And I'm just going to almost make a paste or a paint using the water and the metallic powders. And this is going to allow me to just paint the sides. And just to kind of give the whole thing a little bit of a more uniformed piece, a uniformed look to it. Make sure you're getting the back. And wherever you see white from the relic, go ahead and paint that in. And then just give it a minute to dry. That's the only white part that you need to add some more powder to. And so now that the paint is dry, the sides are dry, I'm going to go ahead and add some of this metallic luster frost to the piece. And what this is a very waxy kind of product, and I'm just lightly putting it over all the raised areas of the shell, both on the outside and the inside. Really helps to highlight everything, and it helps to almost bring that gold, it highlights the gold even more, I think. And I'm also going to do that for this piece. You don't want to go overboard. You just want to make it all look like one solid piece. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take some glitter, and I'm just going to add it to the little spot where I have the pearl, and that's where that fine tip applicator comes in handy. So I'm just going to add a little bit of glue to where the pearl is. And then that glitter will stick to the glue. Now when it fully dries, I'll go ahead and wipe off the excess. And again, you can use any color glitter that you like. I like to actually keep all of my glitters in paper plates, and so it's a little bit easier for me to go and find whichever glitter I want to use. And one of the last things we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and take some of that tacky glue, and we're going to attach this top piece to the shell.